All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And greetings all. It is our Wednesday iteration of the show, and it's great to see everyone. We're live, as you are well aware, 2 hours of liveness. Albert is here.
Albert, thank you.
Who is producing this thing. Kim is here,
Kim,
watching
how are you?
News events of all sorts. Of course, the grand poobah of analysis, John Rothmann, will be through today. He is a presidential historian, a U.S. historian, lecturer, and former KGO talk show host. Have environmental news today with It's the Planet Stupid. We are filled with concern about the future of the top of ticket spot for Joe Biden. I mean, if you're a Biden or bust person, these are tough days for you as more and more people seem to come forward from positions of power, calling on Joe Biden to back off, step back, pass the baton, hand it to somebody else. The deed is done. You've normalized America. Now give somebody else a chance who can actually win the election. This is a hot topic once again. As I mentioned to you yesterday, one of the great beneficiaries, I think I might have mentioned to you Monday, actually, one of the beneficiaries of that entire madness that affected Donald Trump over the weekend with the attempted assassination, one of the great beneficiaries was Joe Biden, because all of a sudden the conversation around Joe Biden and him pulling out of the race pretty much evaporated. The news cycle was consumed with, who is this guy? What about the Secret Service failure? All of these things that were related to the shooting, and appropriately so. Now, as the dust seems to settle, you could argue that Trump gets another break. I think I was reading a piece from Jonah Goldberg this morning in which he said essentially that. So now, I called him the escape artist because Trump escaped, I would say, certain death if the bullet had actually hit him in the head.
Well, he turned his head like within it, just at the right exact millisecond. I mean, if you have you seen the picture of the bullet? Someone caught a photo of it whipping through the air, and it looks like it's headed straight for him. And then he turns his head to look at some chart right at the moment, and it goes boop to his ear.
Yeah, I saw the animation, actually, of the bullet's trajectory. And what you're describing is a photo that was, as I understand it, it looks like it's the bullet, but it's actually the displaced air that the bullet has left. But in any case, it shows you how close it was.
It's really shocking, yeah.
He escapes this, does Donald Trump. And then he escapes from the document case that Eileen Cannon liquidates for him based on a specious argument about the appointment of the special counsel. So immediately he just gains almost superpower strength. Add to that the Supreme Court immunity question, and he's well positioned to take the presidency, enrich himself and his friends, and I don't know what happens to America in the interim. I think a lot of things that are not so great, and that might be a polite way to put it. But the other thing that happened that he is quite lucky about, and this is what I think it was in the Goldberg piece earlier, it did take the heat off Biden for an instant, and in so doing, thank you, Joe Fong, for a super sticker for $10. Big shout out.
Big shout out.
Thank you. Really do appreciate that. Joe Fong, getting the day started. Thank you. The evaporation of the Biden should step back issue being publicly discussed over the weekend and on Monday and even yesterday. The public conversation about Biden evaporated. The private conversation was still going on. I'll accept that, Randy. But the point is, it is public pressure, I think, in large measure, that might bring about a change. But anyway, Trump wants to run against Biden. He does. He feels confident running against Biden, and essentially by that argument and that pressure evaporating for a few days, it looked as though he was even going to get lucky there. He was going to get his wish, and Biden was going to continue. And Biden right now is continuing as the top of ticket choice. But the Democratic Party is not enthusiastic about Biden. Only 33% of Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents say they were pleased with the nominee, compared to 71% on the Republican side. No reason to think that the assassination attempt will cause rank-and-file Democrats to rally around Biden. This is this piece from Jonah Goldberg. So essentially he's saying, so Joe, if you stay in, essentially Donald Trump gets what he wants and the Democrats lose. And again, from Goldberg's column, I think he says that Democrats have lost the will to do anything about it. Biden's Oval Office address Sunday was not terrible, he says. It struck a welcome conciliatory tone. Conciliatory is a ding word. And its shades of unnecessary partisanship were restrained, partly because they had to be, he says. Biden is an avatar of the cultural status quo. He ran to restore normalcy and unify the country. Whether it's fair or not to judge him on that score, he failed. And that's why the address was a missed opportunity. Biden could have announced, this is Goldberg saying this, that he was standing down as his party's nominee, and in the process tried to pull Trump with him. He could have and should have said, the country is better than a race that most Americans do not want between two grumpy old men who have come to represent two warring tribes. He should have called for turning the page and giving the country a fresh start. Biden is an unpopular incumbent who is not going to get more vigorous or cognitively acute. And he's certainly not going to have a moment like Trump had Saturday night. Simply put, Biden's luck has run out, but he could still put an end to his opponent's improbable run of luck. That's from Jonah Goldberg. And I think it states it sort of crudely and frankly and accurately. Karen Combs. What up, Karen Combs? Big shout out.
Big shout out.
Thank you for the super sticker for $10. Love that. And thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much.
We're a crowd-funded show, so it means a lot to us when you and the crowd do a little funding. Thank you. Honestly, one party doesn't deserve the power it wants, says Kay Plant, and the other party doesn't deserve the power it has. Well, that sounds very good. I don't know. I don't know if it's party specific that way, but I love the way you said it, so I'll go with that. The SS Biden-tanic has hit the iceberg, and the band is playing on the deck, and the tune is Bocelli's Time to Say Goodbye. Well, everybody's got a narrative.
Big shout out.
That's from Luis, $5 super chat. Thank you very much.
Big shout out
for that, Luis. Yeah. Look, there are a lot of people who believe that Biden is the man, that he's done it once before. I think I was in that camp for a time. It's funny, we had Pat Thurston on yesterday, and she went under the presumption that I was for Biden staying, and I kind of just let her go with that presumption because I think it made for a good conversation. The truth is, I want to win. I don't want Trump to be in. I don't care. I don't care about Joe Biden. I don't care about Kamala Harris. I don't care about Gavin Newsom. Find me the real chance to win and do it fast. I'm convinced now that Biden is facing too many physical and mental headwinds. And speaking is a big part of this gig, being president.
You have to be a communicator. You have to be.
I don't think you need to be doing push-ups or win in an arm wrestling match. I don't think you need to prove that you're a great pickleball player or that you're a golfer. None of these things. But I do believe you have to be able to, as Kim says, communicate. I do believe that you need to speak well. Here is Joe Biden at the NAACP address yesterday.
President Biden back on the campaign trail in Battleground, Nevada, trying to shore up support among black voters at the NAACP convention and aggressively slamming former President Trump's policies.
Because we must lower the temperature in our politics is related to violence, it doesn't mean we should stop telling the truth.
But today, a new signal that the effort among some House Democrats to convince him to leave the race is not over. Two sources tell NBC News that in a new draft letter, more than
Sorry, I got the wrong one. Let me get a better video of him from that speech.
Okay.
Just the little minor clip played, his sounds kind of slurry and like slamming words together.
That's his thing, is slurry. Now you just kind of have to sit there and sort of figure out what he's saying. I mean, it's not, I'm not suggesting that his brain is mush at all. I'm just saying that his ability to communicate has been compromised through the years. Meanwhile, while you're looking for that, Adam Schiff, this is really the big news of the day.
Yep.
Adam Schiff, who is running for the U.S. Senate in California, of course, is calling for President Biden to drop out of the presidential race. And he said it not only in relation to the top of ticket concern, but he is citing serious concerns that he can win top of ticket, and he's concerned about the effects, the ripple effects in other races. He's the latest Democrat to call for the end to the Biden campaign. He says our nation is at a crossroads. A second Trump presidency will undermine the very foundation of our democracy. And I have serious concerns about whether the president can defeat Donald Trump in November. He said the choice to withdraw from the campaign is President Biden's alone, but he went on to say that it's time for Biden to, quote, pass the torch and secure his legacy of leadership by allowing another Democrat to beat Trump. I'm seeing these comments, and I'll respond to them now. Mars saying, you said last week, Mark, that you're still voting for Biden no matter what. Now any Dem is okay? What changed? Nothing changed. In fact, that's exactly my point. I'll vote for any Dem. I'll vote for you, Mars. If you're top of ticket, I'll vote for you over Donald Trump. I can't state it any more starkly than that. Nothing's changed. I'm saying that the Hail Mary may be for Biden to step back and for someone else to take that spot top of ticket, and I think it has to be Kamala Harris. I get all of the, we're going to have an open convention, and then we're going to talk it out, and it'll be good for the process, and it's messy and chaotic, but that's what politics is. It's messy and chaotic. That's a great soundbite, but messy and chaotic is bad. Messy and chaotic doesn't inspire confidence on the part of the voters. I don't like it, but I think you have to give it to Kamala Harris. She has access to the war chest, and if you're going to do it, that's who has to step up. Again, do I think Kamala Harris is the best person to run? No, I don't.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's where we are, and I still am pessimistic, but it's so that's my answer. Nothing's changed, Mars. As I say, I'll vote for you if you're top of ticket, the Democrats. Deirdre from Lozica, my favorite concrete company, aren't they? Lozica Concrete?
Yeah, absolutely.
When I want to pour somebody into concrete, I call Lozica, at least to get an estimate. Now is not the time to replace Biden, Mark. Wow. Well, I mean...
Why are you yelling?
Yeah, the time would have been a year ago, but here
Yes.
we are in the situation we find ourselves in. What now?
You're not wrong. But we kind of are of the time we are in, you know. Alan says this, and you're going to hear a lot of this. You heard it at the Republican convention. We need a 24-hour president. Biden's staff saying he's fine from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. That says it all. Look, You're right, Alan. I mean, I never liked that. We're finding out a lot of details and stuff like that is not helpful. I mean, when it comes to evaluating Biden and you want to sort of cast it in a positive light. But let me just say this. Donald Trump wasn't even working from 10 to 4. 10 to 4 was an insanely long day for Donald Trump.
10 to 4
Donald
was
Trump
prime golf hours.
Watched Fox and Friends and tweeted, and then now it'll be Truth Social, and hung out in his bathrobe up in the private quarters with what they called executive time. If you looked at his schedule, it was executive time. It was all this executive time. He was not even working from 10 to 4, Alan. Then he'd come down, as I've said before, he's read nothing, he knows nothing, he doesn't look at the briefing materials, he doesn't have the patience or the desire for anything more than photo ops and for these convulsive, reflexive policy things like, I'm going to put a 10% tariff on Chinese goods. I'm going to put a whole ban on Muslims coming into the United States. These are convulsive, not well thought out policy positions that then his staff scrambles and tries to make happen. Look at him on COVID, denying that it was a problem while knowing it was a problem. Then he set up a vaccine team. Then he threw doubt on the vaccines because he was worried about this personal vendetta he had with Anthony Fauci. I don't know. I just see him as that's just some of what it was going on in the Trump administration. The other thing I will share with you from Trumpland, and this is very much what will happen, is his son, Don Jr., wants to be a big part of the administration, and he wants veto power over those involved in the presidential transitional hiring. He says he wants, quote, veto power over presidential transition hiring decisions if his father wins a second term in November. He said he would not want an administration role, but instead wants to, quote, block the bad actors. This is Don Jr. again speaking. I don't want to pick a single person for a position of power. All I want to do is block the guys that would be a disaster. I want to block the liars. I want to block the guys that are pretending they're with you. You guys pick the guy that's right. I want veto power to cut out each and every one of those people, he said. The advantage, he said, of his second Trump term is, quote, now we know who possible administration officials will be. It's amazing, too, that when Trump took power and then takes power again, nobody makes a big deal at all about the fact that it's just this nepotism-filled White House staff. So it's Don Jr., Eric, Kushner will now be replaced probably by Bannon. So you end up with this and J.D. Vance, I suspect, may lean in heavily in the second administration, doing a lot. This is so Trump can golf and tweet, which is really all he's going to do. So that's the Don Jr. side of things. They're really aching to put Trump loyalists in every position. So that's a little bit of what's going on. I'll talk to Rothmann more about the likely scenarios. Do we have anything from last night's parade of loyalty, Albert?
That's what it was, too. I mean, yeah.
And I don't blame Trump for being out in that arena. I mean, like, if you're an egomaniac, if you're really a megalomaniac, like this is your thing, how great to watch this parade of people who are trash talking you have to kiss your ass publicly on national television in prime time. Oh, he had to delight. It was pornography for him. That's what it was. It was his porn, watching Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley just roll around and in this totally supplicative way have to pledge to the leader. Oh, it had to be delicious for Donald Trump. Do you have it, Albert?
Day 3 of the Republican National Convention kicks off today in Milwaukee. Now, last night, many of Donald Trump's former rivals and critics took to the stage and gave him their full support.
Donald Trump has my strong endorsement, period. I'm here tonight because we have a country to save. And a unified Republican Party is essential for saving her.
Donald Trump has been demonized. He's been sued. He's been prosecuted, and he nearly lost his life. We cannot let him down, and we cannot let America down.
Donald Trump is the president who will actually unite this country, not through empty words, but through action. Because you know what? Success is unifying. Excellence is unifying. That's who we are as Americans.
Now, today's theme for the convention is Make America Strong Once Again. Republicans will focus on foreign policy and national security. Let's bring in our...
There you have it. It's kind of wild. It's kind of wild that they build it out thematically like that, too, that they have Make America wealthy again, Make America safe again, Make America secure again. So, you know, it's the cast of Republican characters who are back now to essentially pledge loyalty to the leader, and that's what's happening.
How the times have changed, because, you know, just a few months ago, they were singing a whole different tune. He's not the right person for America. He's dangerous. He's, you know, they were doing what they could to further themselves. So it's interesting.
Well, Nikki Haley said that it would be suicide to vote for Trump again. It would be national suicide to vote for another Trump term. So yes, you're so right. They're singing a totally different tune, and they are consolidated in their support behind Donald Trump. Clearly a flawed candidate, and clearly a flawed candidate that many of them recognize as flawed. She even mentioned, she said, we may not agree on everything Donald Trump does, but we certainly know he's better than those evil Democrats, essentially, she said. But they can't even get that kind of consolidation behind Joe Biden. Again, Adam Schiff calling for him to bow out of the race. And new Democratic-funded polling shows Biden is losing ground to Trump in 14 states right now. Meanwhile, the Democratic National Committee is moving ahead with its plan to virtually nominate Biden in the coming weeks. Again, I want to talk to John Rothmann about that clock as it ticks. But Biden clearly is dug in. He's defiant, you know. And there are a lot around the president who have an interest in him continuing as well. I always remind you that, you know, this is the livelihood for so many. And access to the president and being in the circle of those who have direct access to the president is an intoxicating and powerful thing, to the point that you want to continue. So you have advisors all around the president who are, they're disposed toward saying, let's go for it. You know, come on, you've got a good chance. Jim Slayton with a $5 super sticker.
Big shout out.
Thank you, Jim. Albert, did you tweet today?
I did.
Albert, thank you.
All right. Well, I'll retweet you. And I am, in the meantime, going to listen to Kim's news, and then we're bringing on John Rothmann. I'm right on time, which is amazing.
What?
I know. Feels like I skipped over some stuff. There must be the reason.
This never happens.
I will share one little palate cleanser with you, if Albert can run it. Rudy Giuliani made it to the convention, and I don't know if you saw it, but he really makes an entrance. Albert, here's Rudy coming into the convention hall.
Hold on, I was ready for breaking. I have to pull it up.
Oh, my God, Albert.
Albert, thank you.
I just not...
You know, they do this to me all the time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
I know what they do it. I asked for it, I gave it to him, and still, you know, where are those pictures?
And I also want to know what happened to the pictures I was supposed to see this week.
This is worth waiting for. Well, depending on how long we have to wait for it. I don't know how long. Albert has the video that I want to run in his other pants. He's running to get it now. And Trevor, star in Hollywood, blaming Tony, which is a very, that's a very...
Thanks, Tony.
Okay. Rudy was there, didn't see this. Said, "Oh, stand by, Alan. Albert will get it for you." It's pretty great. Well, maybe I thought it would be easier than it is. Do you want to wait? Here it is. Rudy entering the arena. This is Rudy Giuliani entering the arena. And he just can't quite get... I'm trying to figure out exactly what was going on here. Take a look at this. I mean, it's...
I'd be willing to bet my lunch that there's alcohol involved.
Maybe it's alcohol. I don't know. But I mean, if it was alcohol, it wouldn't surprise me. But, okay, they help him up, and he's on his way. But we'll run it again. And tell me what's going on here. He's walking in. He looks down.
Oh.
He just falls off of the carpet. Is that what it is? I don't know.
Well, it doesn't look like there's that much of a height difference, is there?
Yeah, there might be, but still I don't understand why he stepped off of that riser. You know what I mean? Just stay where the red carpet is, dude. Just keep walking. And he's not... I don't even know if he was there to talk to...
Well,
I'm unclear what was going on.
He looked like he was veering off, like he had some kind of issue, medical issue.
Yeah. Well, he's okay. People seem to feel that he's drunk. We're like being... Dave says he's drunk. It's booze, guys. The guy gets S-faced on his YouTube show all the time. Oh, really? That's great. Maybe there's a reason to watch that S2. Looks like he stumbled over something, says Randy. I don't know. There's a step down near the seats. Yes, that's true. There is a step down near the seats. And he's old, says Ricky. Yeah, but, not old people are falling down all the time. He looked like he was going to sit down, says Gordon. Well, we'll keep these hypotheticals and theories going. But in any case, Rudy is there in the arena. Whoa. He's back up on his feet, and he's making his way to various podcasts. I've seen it and heard it, and that's America's mayor. Smash the like button like a boss. Smash it with your iron rod. Kim's News, and then the great Rothman. Next, Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This report is sponsored by the incredible CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Let's talk about J.D. Vance, who will be taking center stage at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee tonight. Donald Trump's running mate is the headline speaker and will formally introduce himself to the voting public, talking about his journey to become an Ohio senator and now a vice presidential nominee. He wrote that bestseller, Hillbilly Elegy, a memoir of his experiences growing up in poverty, and I'm sure we'll hear more about that tonight.
Well, that was a great story, and I don't know how much was basically shellacked and made prettier by the retelling. But it is a pretty great rags to riches story. In fact, it was picked up by Ron Howard. Ron Howard directed and produced a film. They bought the rights to Hillbilly Elegy. So this is a guy who, was sort of more mainstream, but he's completely hard right now. Total ban on abortion, no exceptions. And he is underpinned heavily by a religious nationalism.
Well, again, he's speaking tonight, so I'm sure that we'll be talking about it tomorrow. Speaking of tomorrow, there will be a funeral held for the man shot during Donald Trump's assassination attempt. His name is Corey Comparatori, and he was killed at this Pennsylvania rally while shielding his family from bullets meant for Trump. The funeral comes as the Secret Service faces intense scrutiny now from lawmakers over reported security lapses at that rally. So again, his funeral will be held tomorrow. Speaking of the assassination attempt, Iran is now denying U.S. accusations that it was plotting to kill former President Trump. CNN reported yesterday that Trump had his security boosted weeks ago after U.S. authorities received intelligence about alleged Iranian plots against him. Iran now rejecting those accusations, calling them unsubstantiated and malicious. One of President Biden's staunchest supporters is asking him to drop out of the 2024 race. As Mark mentioned, we know that California Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff told the Los Angeles Times he has serious concerns as to whether President Biden can beat former President Trump. Meanwhile, reports say Majority Leader Chuck Schumer was among Democrats that got the DNC to delay a virtual roll call, officially nominating President Biden for the 2024 ticket. Here in California, Governor Gavin Newsom is being hit with a lawsuit over the state's new gender identity law. Newsom signed a law Monday banning schools from notifying parents if their child asks to change their name or pronouns. The Chino Valley Unified School District claims parents have a right to know, and they are the first to file a lawsuit. Speaking of the fallout from the gender identity law, a tech giant and aerospace company could be leaving California for Texas. Billionaire Elon Musk owns them both. He posted on social media that he will be relocating the headquarters of X in San Francisco and SpaceX in Hawthorne, in part because of the gender identity law. He called it the final straw, saying he already warned the governor that families and businesses may not protect their children, or may leave to protect their children.
I mean, it's wild that this cultural issue is such a big wedge issue that he's going to move his company from California. I mean, it really is, honestly, an issue that doesn't affect him, but and maybe he's using it as a smokescreen. You know, it's a big tax thing. He's given all kinds of tax incentives to go to Texas. So maybe he'll be all about it. I'll just mention one thing because we're talking about Texas. Mm-hmm. On the heels of this last Hurricane Beryl, more and more people are looking at leaving Texas. These are residents of Texas. I was reading a long piece this morning about it. The fact that they've just been inundated in all of these different ways by these natural disasters, hurricanes primarily. And they're really leaving in droves because the infrastructure to beat back these waters is not there. And Texas hasn't been aggressive about doing things that protect the public there. And so increasingly people are looking at leaving Texas. This as Elon is moving his company there. Wait,
didn't they just get to Texas from California? Now they're coming back?
Well, it's some of them. Oh. It's not all people who are, some of these people have lived in Texas for a while. You know what I mean? They're not all Californians who are going, hey, I want to get out.
Interesting. Well, can we talk about interest rates for just a moment? Because a Federal Reserve governor says it's getting closer to cutting interest rates. Christopher Waller hinting the Fed expects a rare soft landing of the economy unless there are any major changes in inflation and employment numbers. He said he believes they are getting closer to the time when a cut in the policy rate is warranted. The Fed has kind of balked at any rate cut while inflation remains high. So that's interesting. The retail crime crackdown across California is moving at a pretty good pace. Here they are, taking all the things out of the stores. The latest update shows 717 arrests have been made since January. That's not bad. A CHP task force also recovered nearly $230,000 worth of stolen goods valued at almost $7 million. This year's enforcement, the most aggressive, Governor Newsom says it's all about taking criminal enterprises down and securing justice for businesses and communities hurt by those crimes. Speaking of crimes, new developments in the FBI raids in Oakland. The investigation has expanded to the police department. The U.S. Attorney's Office wants records dating back to March that include reports involving the Duong family. They run the city's recycling company. The FBI searched their homes last month along with Mayor Sheng Tao's house. She denies any wrongdoing. No charges have been filed in this case. The grand jury investigation there could go on for months. The increasingly popular WNBA is inking new media rights deals. The Athletic reporting the league is set to receive about $2.2 billion over the next 11 years in rights fees from its new deals. That means the WNBA will be bringing in an average of $200 million per person and will be able to, per season, not per person, per season, and will be able to make as much as 6 times the amount of its current contract. So we'll see. Will they be able to pay their players more? Wouldn't that be nice?
Well, they play the players. They do okay, but you're right. They may be a little bit of a bump.
Singer, lastly, Adele is taking a little bit of a break. She had this big, residency and in Las Vegas, and she said it's emotionally draining and that she misses her life before she became a global celebrity. So she says she'll be taking a big break from music after her upcoming concerts. She says, I don't have any plans for new music at all. So she's got a 10-date string of gigs booked in Germany for August, and then she's just taking a break. She says, I'm done. She said, my tank is quite empty at the moment, and I don't have any plans for new music at all. So,
hey, sister, I know all about your tank being empty. Believe me. I'm all about it. I get it. I mean...
Oh, girl, baby girl.
Don't even play.
Don't even play.
I feel you, girl. I feel you.
She said, I want a big break after all of this, and I think I want to do other creative things for a little while. And her quote is, I don't even sing at home at all. How strange is that?
No.
Can you imagine someone with that talent doesn't even... You'd think she walks around the house singing to herself. Somebody who loves singing.
It'd be like your house, filled with song and hope.
Right. Music.
Instead,
there's
she
pianos
wants to move
and
on.
Bassoons and voices and things, and no, she's out.
Yeah.
This report is sponsored by Coachella Valley Coffee. It is so good. I've got the lemon with mint iced tea over here in the cup. What are you drinking over there?
I've got the nice espresso.
Oh, and your fancy little espresso cup today. Wow. Yeah.
Otherworldly. You can have a piece of the magic. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Use the discount code MARKT when you order and look at all of the great stuff they have. The cold brew is really something popular, and I think you'll really enjoy it. I know you'll like everything that comes from there. And they're so helpful, and it's such a ma and pa operation. It's a boutique. Make no mistake about it. It's a boutique coffee place. It's high-end stuff, but wow, is it worth it? And the 10% off really does help, and you can get it off of anything that you order on the site. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com, Coachella, CoachellA, like Coach Ella. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com, and Mark T, MARKT, for your discount, and that's 10% off anything. So
that's right. I'm Kim McAllister, and this is The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Put that coffee down.
Okay, sorry. I'm very excited. Excited to be running on time, more or less. I'll give this man his full allotment. But before I do, what is this? Major, major, major. Don't take any wooden nickels, Mark. Keep on keeping on. We need you and less corporate media doom. Maud Day with a $50 super chat.
Big shout out.
Big shout out. I'm going to say thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maud. $50 goes a long, long way.
Thank you.
I'll give you the 4 thank yous, exactly. Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Maud, you're great, and you're a great supporter and a regular supporter, and I appreciate it. We are a crowd-funded show, so the only reason we're here is because of people in the crowd funding us. So that's why we make a big deal when people step up, as they do, with Super Stickers, Super Chats, and, of course, with Patreon and PayPal. You can subscribe or support, however you want to term it, and those links are under all our videos, and you can be part of the community that supports this show. This guy is supporting the show every week by joining us on Wednesdays. He is a historian. He's a presidential historian, among other things. He's an author, and he's the former talk show host and colleague with us on KGO. How about it for the great John Rothmann, everyone? John, remind everyone where you are on this position of what should happen with Joe Biden right now.
I've advocated ever since the joint appearance, I won't call it a debate, for Joe Biden to relinquish the nomination and turn it to Kamala Harris. Every day this mounts, and you have reported Adam Schiff's shift. This is a major development because Adam Schiff is not only a critical member of the House, but he will be a member of the United States Senate. If Donald Trump wins the presidency, the course of American history changes profoundly. And so I'm hoping that Joe Biden, despite my support for him over many years, decides not to be the Democratic nominee. And let me say a quick word about J.D. Vance. I will be listening tonight avidly to his presentation. He is far to the right politically. And you may know that the theme of the National Convention of the Republicans tonight is national security. And J.D. Vance opposes aid to Ukraine. And I think that says it all. It presents a complete contrast with the Republican Party of Ronald Reagan, for instance. So we'll be watching that. And of course, I'm not sure if it's up on his website today, but it was yesterday that he opposes abortion completely. That will be a major issue. And so I'm looking to a lot of different things as the days go by.
Just on the Biden issue, I'm seeing this. Adam should shut his mouth, Mindy says. I think we are going to lose. Is there a quality of this that should be done behind closed doors, or are you? This is the way Washington works and politics works. People come out and they publicly make statements of the sort that Schiff did.
He's being approached behind closed doors. The poll results, which you reported earlier, and I do listen to your program, polls show him in 14 states having severe problems. He's even having problems in safe states, so to speak, safe Democratic states. So I think the handwriting is on the wall. For Joe Biden, it's a problem. He really believes he's doing a great job, and I think he has. But you understand that if we stand with Joe Biden, that it is almost certain that Kamala Harris will become president in the course of another term. And it's also clear that Democrats in the House and Senate are very concerned about the down ballot effect of Joe Biden. And I want to repeat, I've always been a fan of Joe Biden. I like him very much. The best biography of Joe Biden was written by Jules Witkover several years ago. It describes his story, which is a tremendous American story. But you cannot help Joe Biden now, as you've said, and as Kim said. One of the most important things is a president has to be able to be articulate and clear and precise. You know what it reminds me of, and I want to use an analogy, and it's not the same analogy, but interesting. Our colleague Gene Burns, of blessed memory, was one of the greatest talk shows, one of the most, a towering intellectual giant. He had his stroke, and he was no longer able to do what the old Gene Burns had done. His mind was clear, but he couldn't articulate. And I think one of the most important single things for people to understand is you get to a point where you have to acknowledge your own inability to function. And despite Joe Biden's brilliant record, and they're talking about all the great things he's done, you cannot go backward with Joe Biden. He's not the man he was 20 years ago or 10 years ago or frankly 4 years ago.
You remind me also with the Gene Burns reference of Dick Clark. You know, Dick Clark was this guy who was a transformative figure from the standpoint of everything he did. You know, he started as this host of a rock and roll show, I guess, in the early 60s. And as television
50s.
evolved...
In
50s,
the 50s.
okay. 50s and 60s. It was American Bandstand, was that what it was called? And it was like, you know, every week.
And it was a tremendous show.
Yeah, it had all this viewership.
And
so
he
Dick
seemed ageless.
Yes, he was a young guy who seemed to always stay young. And he went on to host a $10,000 pyramid or whatever, $100,000 pyramid.
And don't forget New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve with Dick Clark was an American tradition.
Exactly. And so this brings me to the New Year's Eve thing because he had a stroke. And he had lost his ability to speak in that beautiful, smooth fluency that had informed his entire TV career. But he wanted to be on, and they felt it was called Dick Clark's Rockin' Eve. I think they still call it Dick Clark's Rockin' Eve. And they had him on, and he could speak sort of, but it was, he sounded like a guy that had a stroke. And it was maybe him hanging on too long, or maybe it was a rallying cry for those others who had had strokes and saw him. So I can see it from both perspectives. But one thing I always wondered was, does Dick think he sounds better than he does? Or, you know what I mean? To what extent does Joe Biden feel as though it's fine? I mean, I get it. Sometimes I, confuse words but I've been doing that all my career.
But he hasn't done it his whole career. Those of us who've known him, let me just point out to you one quick thing. If Kamala Harris is the Democratic nominee, and if Joe Biden as president is still functioning, I guarantee you that she will have him everywhere in the campaign. He'll campaign as vigorously against Donald Trump as he would have if he had been the candidate. And nobody is asking Joe Biden to leave the political stage. They're simply saying, recognize that the next 4 years is going to be, frankly, not possible for you to do. All of this will come to a head after the Republican convention. That is the general plan. I am glad to see, and I want to comment on this, that the Democrats are going to go ahead with their convention. They're not going to do the early roll call, evidently. That's what we were told this morning, although they were doing it not because of Joe Biden, but because of Ohio. There is a rule in Ohio in terms of a date. I think they've modified it. Whoever the nominee of the Democratic Party is has to be on the ballot in all 50 states, and that's going to be critical. One other quick point, you will note that Donald Trump is talking with Robert Kennedy Jr., and the whole goal there for President Trump is to bring the Kennedy people on board. Let me tell you that they agree on vaccines, and that's the problem. And we're just going to have to see how this develops. It's a fascinating moment.
When Biden has an audience, he comes alive, says Gordon. The note from PT is that if Harris stumbles, and she will, because she is a lightning rod, or that. Let's assume, okay, so she stumbles. Then there's no going back to Biden, who has successfully guided the ship. You'll split the Democratic Party forever if you dump Harris. Wait 2 years and Joe
Harris
quit.
Isn't going to be dumped. And I've said this repeatedly, those of you who have listened to my podcast or have listened to me here with Mark, if for some reason Joe Biden withdraws, Kamala Harris will be the Democratic nominee. There's no question about it. By the way, Biden has already indicated that. The delegates are already pledged. And Biden will direct them. There will not be an open convention. This is not a case where you could have favorite son candidates or where you could have dark horse candidates, all the rest, because the structure of the conventions is different. One of my favorite books is Convention Decisions and Voting Records, which is a compilation of all the political conventions since 1832. And believe me, it is a book of tremendous strength and value, but it's not relevant today. Look, I was talking to somebody this morning who pointed out the Republicans aren't holding a convention. They're holding a media presentation. They're selling themselves to the American people. There's no great debate. When I attended the Republican convention of 1964, there was a great debate on the floor. Barry Goldwater's people may have won, but there was a debate, and it was vigorous, and you heard Nelson Rockefeller and George Romney being booed and hissed, and it was an amazing moment. We don't have conventions like that anymore. And I regret that because, frankly, watching that dynamic was one of the greatest fun moments of my life.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, things have changed, just the way the debate structure has changed and who controls the debate structure. I mean, it used to be the League of Women Voters who handled the debating, and it was...
And may I say, before the League of Women Voters, the Nixon-Kennedy debate, the 4 appearances, 3 together and 1 was done by cross-continent, different studios, they worked out what the details were. And anchor, Howard K. Smith, as it turns out, was the first one, all the rules were established. And when there was that lapse, because there were no debates again until 1976, then the League of Women Voters and the Presidential Debate Commission all became entwined. And it's a very unfortunate thing, because to me, a debate is having two people stand on a stage and argue a particular subject. The last time that happened was when Dewey and Stassen debated on May 17th, 1948, on the question of whether the Communist Party should be abolished in the United States. By the way, did you hear one other thing
Please
today?
stop showing off, John. We don't need that kind of.
You don't need that? I just want to give you
that
context.
was really. I get it. Okay, you know history. Okay, I got it. All right.
I'm so glad because I was afraid you didn't get it.
John, I wonder if you could comment on something that Biden is doing. This is not related to whether he's going to stay in the race or not, but he is doing something, and I have to say. Well, I'll just let you comment first, and then I'll comment on it. He is planning to endorse term limits for Supreme Court justices, as Joe Biden, and a new ethics code. This, according to the Washington Post. The again, the right has continued to upend all the U.S. legal precedent with ethics and recusal sort of being off of the table. Biden is calling for a new constitutional amendment that would also eliminate sweeping immunity for presidents and other officials. So he's looking to leapfrog the Supreme Court decision. And again, he's looking to get a code of ethics.
Well, I did that this morning, by the way, on my own podcast, Around the Political World with John Rothmann. I am opposed to that kind of reform. I don't think it's a reform. I think it's a retrogression. Let me be clear. Franklin Roosevelt tried that in 1937 with a court packing plan. If I'd been alive then, I would have opposed it, as I would oppose Biden on any of this. I understand he's trying to bring along the so-called progressive wing of the Democratic Party, but it's a mistake. And by the way, there will be no constitutional amendment because the states won't approve it.
Of course,
won't approve it. And right. I don't even think you get the kind of support you need in the House and in the Senate. So
the real move is to expand the court, and that's what I think the Republicans may do. But this is
They don't have to. The Republicans don't have to vote to expand the court. They control the court now. And if Donald Trump is elected, every time there's a vacancy, they'll just put another conservative justice on the court. They don't have any compelling need to do that. And I would point out the Democrats make a big mistake because let's assume it all passed and Biden was able to add people. Well, a Republican would come into office, and what that Republican would do would nominate more people who are conservative given the opportunity. The whole thing makes no sense except for Joe Biden trying to pacify some in the Democratic Party. It's the same mistake Franklin Roosevelt made back in 1937. And if the Biden people were familiar with history, they'd understand what a foolish gesture it is.
So what's going to happen, John?
I don't have tea leaves. The only thing I can tell you is I predicted, as you will recall, the nomination of Senator Vance. I thought it was a very logical thing to do. My son sent me an email saying, "Dad, how did you know? You were right." Well, you could have just as easily been wrong. But the simple fact is some things are logically deduced. That is why key Democrats are going to Joe Biden and saying to him, you cannot be the candidate. We will lose. We will lose with the presidency, the House, and the Senate. And the thought that Donald Trump would control then essentially all the branches of government, and I include the Supreme Court in that, is horrifying to those who oppose him, to the people who support him. The people at the Republican National Convention, they're nothing but cheers.
People are asking for Mr. Predicto on whether or not Biden. Well, I'll do it after John's segment is complete. I just think you've been around politics for so long, John, that you have a sense, especially California politics. And now there's a high-profile California congressperson who likely will be senator, who is calling for a change at the top of the ticket. It feels as though the waters are rising, and they'll eventually reach the Lido deck where Joe Biden resides. But it coexists with the fact that Joe Biden has really, really limited his circle now. They say that it's hard to get to him with some of this information, with some of the polling, et cetera.
He knows. You can't hide from news. He's aware of everything. Let me tell you, if I were Joe Biden, the most powerful man in the world and a successful president in his mind over the last 3.5 years, I would want to hold on to power as well. I understand that, but you have to know when enough is enough. You have to know when you can't do it anymore. And there's time still to work this out. But let me once again repeat that if Joe Biden withdraws, Kamala Harris will be the nominee. The Democrats really have no other alternative because their rules are so restrictive. This is not the days when you could have favorite son candidates, when you could have dark horses, when you could have an open convention. It just isn't. It isn't practical and isn't going to happen. So then the question becomes when Joe Biden will make his decision. He can do it right up to the time of the convention, I guess.
Put that back up there if you would, Albert or Kim. That was a good question from Sandy. John Rothmann, you really don't think it would make the Dems look weak and ununified if Biden steps down? I just feel like it would send the wrong message, and there's no way we'd win, says Sandy.
Why are you yelling?
Speak up to that, John.
Sandy, I understand your point of view, but forget the politics and just think about Joe Biden. A lot of people that I talk to say, we agree with Biden, but we're not going to vote for him again because he's not capable anymore of doing the job as president. It's just that simple. Do you think I like saying that? Do you think, I haven't talked to Adam Schiff about it, but I can tell you Adam Schiff is a great fan of Joe Biden's. How do you think he feels? But there are limitations and you have to be able to recognize them. May I give you one example? My father-in-law, of blessed memory, about 5 years before he died, developed certain indications that he wasn't able to control things anymore. He just turned it over to his son. He said, I'm not capable anymore. The toughest thing a person can do is to announce and concede their own limitations. But if the Democrats nominate Joe Biden, if he insists, we will rally around Joe Biden because the alternative is Donald Trump. And remember, people don't just vote for, they vote against. And I think there are enough people in this country who oppose Donald Trump and oppose what he stands for that he can never get a majority of the country.
Well, the women in this country could really drive that kind of negative vote, but getting motivated is a big thing, and people are not particularly motivated to pull the lever for the Biden-Harris ticket. It's just,
But they will be motivated not to vote for Trump and Vance.
Sure.
And let me tell you, they're going to make a case. You've heard the Republicans, and remember, the whole point of a convention is to see what kind of bounce you get. Do you remember when the Democratic convention ended, when Michael Dukakis was nominated for president, that he had a 17-point lead over George H.W. Bush? Anything can happen in an election. And may I just say that that includes attempted assassinations, that includes new scandals, that includes a whole bunch of things. I'm very concerned for the country. I have opposed Donald Trump, and I'm not here as a partisan. I've opposed Donald Trump because I disagree with him on his policies. I disagree with his personality, the way he approaches things. I've articulated that clearly and precisely. But I am cognizant of the fact that people will not necessarily vote for a president who is enfeebled. You've got to have the ability to stand before the people and speak. You know what I'd look forward to? Kamala Harris debating Donald Trump. You want to see an exciting debate? That would be a debate to witness. She is a prosecutor, and those of us who've known her for years know that her experience as district attorney, as Attorney General of California, she demonstrated that ability in the courtroom. And
there's a lot of this, looking forward to debates. This is the wet dream that everybody has of the Democrats, and I'm so sick of it. With all respect, I don't see even that Donald Trump needs to debate anybody. He is ahead in every poll in more and more states, in swing states.
You're right.
Why would he possibly even want to get on the debate stage with Kamala
You're
Harris?
Right. That was exactly Lyndon
Hillary
Johnson's.
Hillary Clinton was a brilliant person as well, in command of many facts, Secretary of State. She knew Washington inside and out. She certainly could debate with the best of them. And he held his own on the stage with her by being a bully. Again, it's a TV event. It's not a debate.
Let me remind you, Johnson refused to debate Goldwater. Nixon refused to debate Humphrey or McGovern. It is the choice of the candidate. A candidate can just say no. And It is possible that Donald Trump will just say no. Remember, there is a scheduled debate in September between Biden and Trump. If Biden is the nominee for the presidency of the Democratic Party, then there will be a debate. Trump is firmly committed, and Trump believes he can beat Biden in a debate again.
He
And
can.
so
He absolutely can, because he's completely unmoored. He doesn't have any allegiance to the truth. He makes stuff up, says it loudly, says it clearly, and then Joe Biden slurs a bunch of stuff, stutters through it, which is sad. I wish he could express himself more clearly, and then at the end of it, it's like, wow, that was pathetic.
you've made the case.
Yeah.
And that's the case that is being made now to the Biden family and to by the Democrats in the House and Senate.
So
look, it's
this
a
is
very
interesting.
sad. It's a sad moment. It's not a happy moment at all.
More and more people, I just want you to comment on this generally, are saying, and there will be RNC momentum. As John says, you typically get a bump off of the convention. So the Dems will get it and the Republicans will get it. The increasing thing I'm seeing is like this. I do believe it's a mistake for doing it right now. We don't look seamless. You know, the more we talk about this, the more this creates a tumult that can be exploited politically by the right. Can you speak to that? I mean, this is sort of what this open question as to who should be top of ticket seems to me appropriate right now. But are we hurting the ticket by talking about it?
Doesn't matter whether we think we're hurting it or not. The conversation's happening. When you have Adam Schiff, who will be the next United States Senator from this great state of California, and a man who is highly regarded by his colleagues, making this statement publicly, and when we know that after the Republican convention, there will be more Democrats saying the same thing, you can't hide in a corner. You've got to confront the reality. And the reality is that Joe Biden, it isn't that people don't like him. It isn't that people don't appreciate what he's done for the country. People are simply saying, we don't think he's up to the task. And I want to say one more time, so everyone understands, it pains me to say that. Pains me tremendously to say that, because Joe Biden, frankly, deserves better. But this is the political reality. There'll be more discussion, and that's the way it is.
Can we talk policy, please, says Karen, and not make decisions based on a debate/show? Well, basically what's being done, Karen, is we've already said it. I think it's been said many times here that, you know, the Biden administration has crafted, I think, exquisite policy in many cases. I think the transformational infrastructure package was extraordinary. But that said, the reality, as John has kind of said, is what it is. And post-debate/show, you see, and I love this word that John used, an enfeebled man, a weakened top-of-ticket guy who can't express himself, can't marshal the right thoughts and right words.
Mark, why do you think it's almost even? Because just what the listener's point was, people understand the policies. The policies of Biden and the policies of Trump are completely opposite. We haven't talked about the 2025 project. We haven't talked about the question of aid to Ukraine. We haven't talked about the unfolding drama now with Taiwan, with evidently the Chinese making more and more aggressive stands, perhaps perceiving weakness. I mean, all of these issues are huge. And I'm not here. I'm not here to just bash Trump. I mean, that's not my goal. But there is a clear policy differential between these two. And the reason that Joe Biden has the support that he has today, despite his own personal situation, is because people will not vote for Donald Trump.
But he can express himself, Mark. Sorry for yelling. It's just frustrating, says Sandy. Yeah, well,
why are you yelling?
Maybe he can.
He can, but he's not. Look, go back and watch the tape of the debate. He simply couldn't do it. And you can't be the commander in chief. You can't win an election simply by bumbling around. And it's killing me to say this, Mark. I wish Joe Biden were the old Joe Biden and could do what he has to do. There's nobody tougher, nobody better. But he's 81 years old, and I use the word enfeebled, and I believe he is.
Well, I'm glad we got a chance to talk about this on a day that Adam Schiff steps forward and says, Biden should drop out. I do think that weakness at the top of the ticket has these inexorable effects on other races and other
how
things that are
horrifying,
important.
in my mind, to think of Donald Trump serving 4 more years as president. Just take a look at Project 2025. Listen to the differences on foreign policy. Mr. Senator Vance may be a lovely man, may have a wonderful wife, may have a great story, and his book, Hillbilly Elegy, is certainly an eloquent testimony to his personal strength. But he's a man who opposes aid to Ukraine. He's a man who opposes a woman's right to choose. And all I can tell you is those are just a few of the policy things. We'll be talking a lot more as days go by. And may I make one other comment? When people ask me, do you compare Trump to Hitler? The answer is no, I don't. I don't compare anything to Hitler. But who compared Trump to Hitler? Senator Vance.
The little trivia note on Vance's wife. You know what she does, John?
Yeah, she just resigned from her law firm here in San Francisco, which also had an office in Washington, D.C.
What kind of law did they do?
And she's introducing him tonight at the Republican convention.
And what kind of law did they do? Corporate law. And who did she clerk for, John? Do you know that?
I certainly do. Chief Justice Roberts, but also for a man
exactly
who was
right.
a lowly judge who is now a Supreme Court justice.
It is a fact that when you look beyond the superficial, one-dimensional hillbilly elegy story, there are a lot of facts that point to the kind of future you'd have with Vance in charge. And he will be in charge of a lot because Trump will be playing golf. I will.
Well, may I just say to you, it's also the Republican Party. I was a Republican, and I was active in the Republican Party. I was president of the Teenage Republicans. I was the youngest member of the Republican State Central Committee. I worked for Richard Nixon for years. And I want to be crystal clear. This is not the Republican Party. Donald Trump Jr. said it best on the ellipse on January 6th when he said, it is no longer the Republican Party, it's the party of Donald Trump. And what we have learned in this convention is that is absolutely true. And, well, it horrifies me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's exactly right. You only need to look at who didn't show up at the convention to see how it is no longer the party that you are talking about. By the way, for another time, I want to talk to you about why the F you were in that Republican Party years ago to begin with, because you might have said, you might look back at it wistfully, but I saw a lot of issues. But then again, a lot of good people have come from that world, and you're certainly allowed to have a change of heart. This is a disservice, Mark, from We Run San Jose. This is a disservice, Mark. I love your show, but this doesn't help. There are a lot of people who feel this way. They feel that by talking about this, it's like talking about problems in your family. Don't
It
talk
is our
about the
family.
problem. Yeah.
And what do you do when you have a family crisis? You talk about it. I know it's unpleasant. I'm not happy with what I have to say today. And by the way, as Mark will tell you, and those of you who listen regularly, I've been saying this for a long time. I'm not happy about it, but I would be dishonest if I did not speak clearly and precisely to the issues as I see them. And I appreciate the fact that it is disturbing. If you think you're disturbed, believe me, I'm just as disturbed as you are.
Well, on that disturbing note, we are over the legal limit on disturbing for this segment, so we must say goodbye to the great Professor John Rothmann. He is someone whose podcast is easily digested daily. The Voice of San Francisco with John Rothmann, but the podcast is called Around the Political World with John Rothmann. Again, it's available where all better podcasts exist, and this conversation that we have with him weekly is featured on there as well.
Thank you,
John,
very
we
much.
love you. We love your perspective. These are tough times, and I appreciate you sharing, quite frankly, what you're thinking. So,
thank you for having me.
We'll look forward to next time, my friend. John Rothmann, everybody. Love it.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at?
Stay at home and get baked.
I'm way into it. So glad you're here. Smash the like button like a boss if you would. Thumbs up for
with your iron rod.
at least having the conversation around what is a very important subject, and one that, honestly, it's about the highest profile thing in American politics right now. I mean, I understand the convention is going on for the Republicans, but there is serious contemplation going on among Democrats. And I think not to talk about it is to be irresponsible. So you can tell me, it's bumming me out. You can't do this. Don't talk about it. I mean, ignoring it is, it seems to me like head in the sand kind of, I don't get it. You must make decisions that reflect reality. So I think you have to talk about it. As I say, I'm fine pulling the lever for whoever. For me, it's easy. But there is a quality of waiting for, maybe, hoping, gosh, it's possible that everybody realizes that Donald Trump and his henchmen are so bad that they'll vote against Donald Trump and for Biden, Harris, whoever is top of ticket. I think that that's waiting for Trump to drown himself. I think it's a bad plan. It might work out because he's just the kind of guy who would drown himself, but I think everything at this point in terms of polling doesn't look pretty. And so I think it's fair to have this conversation. That's all I would say. And clearly, I'm not alone. You've got Adam Schiff. George Clooney writes a column, says he's pulling his money out. You've got the Disney heir, Abigail Disney, saying she's pulling out her money from all Democratic funding resources until Biden removes himself from top of ticket. So it ain't just Mark Thompson having this conversation.
Since when is not having a conversation, since when has that ever worked? As you mentioned, the conversation's already going on. You try to sweep it under the rug, you try to ignore it, it's only going to blow up in your face. You have to work it out. You have to get to a solution. You can't just say, don't say that. We can't talk about that. Because people are already talking about it.
We may be cooked either way. I kind of am thinking that we are. But you still have to take the best shot. I mean, the commission knows this in sports. I mean, you may be an overwhelming underdog, like the other team is so much better position by position. But you still play that game because stuff happens and you never know. And there's an aspect to that, I think, in this case. Guess who's not coming to Milwaukee? All the old guard of Republican history. There's a lot to be learned by who's not at the Republican convention, right? So if you need proof that Donald Trump is the party, it is Donald Trump's party. It's a pledge of loyalty and a parade of loyalty that Donald Trump presided over last night and each and every night. The men and women who were once the face of the Republican establishment, a former president, 2 vice presidents, the most recent presidential nominee, not named Trump, they all are skipping the event. It ain't your daddy's Republican Party anymore.
I'm guessing Liz Cheney is sitting this one out.
Thank you. Liz Cheney among them. Yeah. George W. Bush, the former president, is not going to be there.
That says a lot.
Dan Quayle, who served as vice president under George Bush's, the younger's father, the older Bush, George H.W. Dan Quayle won't be going. Dick Cheney, the vice president under the younger George Bush, is skipping the event, as is Liz Cheney, his daughter. Mr. Trump's own vice president, Mike Pence, the former Indiana governor, is not going to be there either. And you may say, well, that's because he ran against him. Well, so did Nikki Haley, so did Ron DeSantis. It's not because he ran against him. Mitt Romney, the Republican Party's nominee for president in 2012. He's a senator from Utah now a leading Trump critic. He's not going to be there. Paul Ryan, Romney's running mate and a former House Speaker. He's not going to be there. John Boehner doesn't look like he's going to be there. So it's all that old guard. They don't even want to be near the place. The establishment class of the Republican Party, they've been a target of Steve Bannon, of Donald Trump, and they continue to be. Look at what they did to Mitch McConnell, who did show up. Mitch McConnell, who was part of grabbing the election victory for Donald Trump by holding open that Supreme Court seat. Mitch McConnell is pure evil for what he did by holding open that seat. It was fiendish politically. Obama had a right to appoint a Supreme Court justice, and Mitch McConnell saw to it that he never got to do that. Mitch McConnell, by holding that seat open, made it clear, vote for the GOP, and you'll get a GOP-appointed justice to that open Supreme Court seat. And that's an effective campaign tool. It was super effective in terms of getting turnout. So you add that to whatever Trump was able to do with animating the base, and he won. He beat Hillary Clinton. Now, Mitch McConnell, instead of being celebrated for that, he's forgotten for that. And because he was at all critical of Donald Trump, he was booed on the floor of the RNC. So that's how far this party has come. Smash the like button like a boss. It's
Smashed it with your iron rod.
Yeah, it's free to smash the like button. Hit the thumbs up. And I will table that for now. Albert, I want to take a quick look at what's going on news-wise with Kim. I also have some law and disorder I didn't tell you about. So if you could get that organized, and again, because we have to meet off the air, on the air, we live out loud, I sent you a couple of stories from the sky pieces, and somewhere else in one of the rundowns, there's some other stories from the sky pieces, and if you put them together, you've got a stories from the sky. I don't know if we'll get to it today, but I'd like to get to it today or tomorrow, and I definitely want to get to Law and Disorder next. And I also have It's the Planet Stupid to come. So there's quite a bit of content still to come. So, Albert, I'm trusting you registered some of that I just said, and you can help get it organized.
Albert, thank you.
All you need to do is get the open and close for Law and Disorder, and the other stuff, if you can get that organized for...
I'm on it.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Kim's news.
Kim, how are you?
And we continue with much of what I just talked about. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and this report is sponsored by you. All eyes will be on J.D. Vance tonight as he headlines the primetime speaker's spot on day 3 of the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. The nation's first Millennial Party nominee will formally introduce himself to the voting public, touching on his humble beginnings, his journey to become an Ohio senator, and now vice presidential nominee. Again, he wrote the bestseller Hillbilly Elegy, a memoir of his experiences growing up in poverty. I didn't realize he was a millennial. Does that mean we have to call him fresh-faced Vance?
I mean, he's only 39 years old, and he went from zero to hero. I mean, this is an incredible rise politically. As I told you yesterday, he's done nothing. He's run nothing. He's don't get me wrong, his story is compelling. I've said it before. The Hillbilly Elegy story is compelling. The other thing that's compelling is the pivot he's done on Donald Trump. He'll say anything. He's an effective speaker, but he is an extreme right-wing guy, and he speaks well. But again, he's been in the Senate for a year and a half. He hasn't done anything. And so it's a weird thing that he is going to be second in command as vice president. It would be, it's again, an extraordinary comment on how those total abject novices have taken over government.
I've heard people say he has barely any experience in government, but then so did Barack Obama, right?
Well, Barack Obama actually had experience at the community level. You can say, well, he's a community organizer. What does that mean? Well, it means that you know how to connect with a populace that you're supposed to represent and to even shape policy on their behalf. J.D. Vance is a venture capitalist, okay? That's what he was doing. He wasn't working in the community. He wasn't doing anything connecting with the electorate a la Barack Obama. You can say Barack Obama was, you know, a newbie, and he certainly was in some ways. But J.D. Vance is truly just like, he's still got the new smell on him, and it's not a good smell. It's the smell of a guy who, you know, just learned where the men's room is on Capitol Hill, and all of a sudden he's going to be president.
Kamala Harris, the current vice president, says the attempted assassination of Donald Trump was cowardly and heinous. Speaking to supporters in Portage, Michigan today, Vice President Harris says she and her husband were praying for Trump and his family when they heard the news. This was her first on-camera comment about that event. And speaking of that event, which most of us saw unfold, the Department of Homeland Security will investigate the security of Donald Trump's Pennsylvania rally, the agency posting a short notice saying that this investigation will evaluate the United States Secret Service's process for securing former President Trump's campaign event. Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle will appear at a House hearing on Monday. The agency, of course, facing intense scrutiny following the assassination attempt and reported security lapses there as well. Speaking of people not doing well, there are 6 people dead after drinking from tea and coffee cups laced with cyanide. It happened at a luxury hotel room in Bangkok.
What?
The group includes 2 U.S. citizens, according to police in Thailand. They say the situation followed a dispute among this group related to bad investments. People suspect one among the group may have poisoned the others.
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
Thompson, party of 4.
You know what? We decided we're not gonna go for the tea service today. Actually, Thank you though. Wow.
In mid-August, Sonoma County's park rangers will lose their peace officer status and will be reclassified as public officers. This comes after a unanimous vote by the Sonoma County Board of Supervisors this week. The vote also creates a new sheriff's office parks unit to take on the extra law enforcement responsibilities at Sonoma County's 55 regional parks. 2 unions that represent park rangers strongly fought against the changes, saying the move puts the safety of park rangers, other park employees, and visitors at risk. There is voting underway for the nation's best-looking cruiser. California Highway Patrol Santa Cruz wants everyone to take part. They're making the appeal on social media, trying to get the state to win a calendar contest. The top 13 states will be featured, but only one can make the cover. All proceeds benefit the American Association of the State Troopers Foundation. The voting closes July 29th. So who is it? Who has the best-looking cruiser? I don't know. Don't they all kind of look the same? No?
Yeah, I thought so. I thought that's the idea.
So too. Yeah. I don't think they're that different. They just maybe different colors in different cities, but unless, isn't it Anaheim that has a Tesla cruiser? Maybe that's the one.
I don't know.
Looks pretty hot.
Yeah, but they all look pretty hot. I don't know. Cop cars look hot, I think. Yeah, I've always thought they looked hot, even since I was a kid. And I was lying to people in my second grade class that my dad was the chief of police. To me, that was like the best lie you could tell back then. You know,
your dad was so much more. Not that being a chief of police is chief of police is nothing
it's such
to
a
sneeze
bad
at,
thing. Yeah, but when you're
exactly.
a kid, like chief of police is like the top dog. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I remember I floated that lie for I might have gotten a good 9 days out of it.
Well, lastly, we've been talking about how the mayor of Paris was going to jump in the Seine, the river, ahead of the Olympics to show that it was not polluted and that it was safe to swim in.
Oh, yeah.
And then the swim got pushed back because it was still toxic and nobody wanted to get in there. Well, it looks like the mayor of Paris has finally taken the swim, even though there are still concerns over E. coli in the water. Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo hopped into the River Seine Wednesday in a bid to demonstrate the cleanliness of the river for the Olympics. The triathlon events are supposed to start right near one of the bridges there later this month, but they did some testing showing E. coli bacteria levels have been above acceptable levels in the majority of days between June 3rd and July 2nd. And
That's not fake. That's real.
Yeah, they're thinking it could expose athletes to health risks, but Mayor Hidalgo dunked her head in the river. She took her little swim.
Morning.
She did it. She said, "It's very, very cool to be here, and it was a dream, and now it's real. After the games, we will have a swimming pool in the river for all the people, for the Parisian people and for the tourists also."
Seriously, what the
Yeah. How do you say seriously what the F in French?
We'll see if she ends up in the bathroom suffering from E. coli or if this is going to be a swim where she's going to make it out okay.
Yeah. She may have to apologize to
She might have
to a lot of people if people get sick, don't you think?
Would you like to apologize for what you've done?
Yeah. I mean, it's just, same is true. Phineas says, remember how bad the water was at the Brazil Olympics? Yeah. It was so bad at the Brazil Olympics that in the rowing events, they were telling the rowers, remember, they're not even really in the water per se, that don't let any splash onto your lips or eyes.
God.
Yeah.
Well, the opening ceremony of the Paris Olympics is set to take place on the Seine July 26th if the currents aren't too strong. So that's where we go. Yeah, we're going to jump in. It's the opening ceremony, and then we're going to have the triathlons leap in. There's another competition taking place in this water as well. But yeah. There she is, swimming her little heart out. This report is sponsored by you, which means we do rely on you to crowdfund this amazing Mark Thompson show. So important, especially during this really interesting election season. Please find us online. TheMarkThompsonShow.com is the website. That's where you'll find the Patreon link. The PayPal link is there. Easy to just click the link and then click through and help us fund the show in whatever way you can. Again, TheMarkThompsonShow.com. And of course, the super chats and the super stickers are open here as well. I'm Kim
Wide
McAllister.
open, baby. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. You're Kim McAllister? Yeah.
On the Mark Thompson Show.
Hey, which one do you use? Mark Thompson?
Use Mark Thompson.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Well, it's happened. You can reach us at the Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com if you want to say something to me.
I've received a lot of positive letters.
It does come right to my phone, and this just came in from Sheila. Mark, you must have shared Pat's crack pipe.
Why are you yelling?
Wow.
Yeah, I guess Sheila doesn't feel as though... I'm open to, you tell me how you want to do it. You want to ride with Biden? Great. But I want to win. And so... increasingly, as the guy's taking on water, I'm open to the notion of replacing him. Others have suggested, and thank you for the suggestions for various guests on the show. We'll try to rally some of those. This from nutritionist Liz, the official nutritionist of the Mark Thompson Show. Nutritionist Liz with a $5 super chat.
Big shout out.
Just tuning in. Keep up the energy. Keep up the much appropriate anger. You are much appreciated. This instead of the gold bars that I left at home. So thank you for the 5 spot.
Why are you yelling?
And thank you for encouraging the anger. Yeah. I also wanted to recognize we've got a Friday Fabulous Florida spot that I forwarded on to Albert. And I don't think there's anything else I need to get to in the mail. Usually I try to recognize new Patreon or PayPal members. I don't see anything that needs attention.
How about this one from Trevor Starr in Hollywood?
Trevor Starr in Hollywood, 1010. Major announcement coming soon. TBA. Wow.
Big shout out.
Big shout out to Trevor Starr in Hollywood. I wonder if Trevor Starr in Hollywood may be going back to Concord and being Trevor Starr in Concord again. That was the Bay Area city from which he hailed. I did want to mention Andy's is a new Patreon member. Big shout out.
Big shout out.
And thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I don't know if I mentioned Andy's the other day or not, so I want to reiterate it if I did, and I want to initially iterate it if I didn't. So Andy's, thank you for finding us on Patreon and joining our community. And you can be part of the Patreon community. Again, there are click-throughs under every video. Josh, says I'm going to point out that expecting a musician to walk around the house constantly singing. Oh, this is because
Adele.
Kim was saying that she expected Adele to be in a house where she's constantly singing and there's music everywhere. Josh says, I'm going to point out that expecting a musician to walk around the house constantly singing or even listening to music is like expecting Mark to walk around the house just talking to himself, a la his show.
I think that's actually what happens.
Yeah, well, it's been known to happen. I'm always looking for the audience, you know. So sometimes I just have to opine to the cats if I can get one to pay attention.
All right, kiddies, let's talk about Trump.
Albert, do you want to do a little bit of a kind of a palate cleanser here? You want to do, I'll leave it to you, Law and Disorder, or do you want to do a Stories from the Sky? You decide.
Let's do Stories from the Sky. It's been a while. Little palate cleanser to end the show.
All right, okay.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Let's do it then. This is Stories from the Sky.
We have clearance, Clarence.
Roger, Roger. What's our vector, Victor?
Enough is enough! I have had it with these monkey-fighting snakes on this Monday to Friday plane! Everybody strap in!
A first-time flyer in China opening an emergency exit after mistaking it for the bathroom door.
What? How do you mistake that exit with the bars and the signs that say don't twist? How do you mistake that for the lavatory?
It does seem like another level of dim. Officials told media that the first-time flyer confused the exit for the bathroom door. It took place on a plane flying from the eastern city of Guangzhou to Chengdu in China's west. The Air China flight last week was stopped after this happened, and authorities confirmed the passenger was indeed flying for the first time and believe the door led to the bathroom. You can see that the emergency slide was deployed and the Airbus 320 was stopped there on the tarmac.
That is crazy.
That is crazy is a good drop, Trevor, if you're watching. If you could grab that Kim drop. That is crazy.
It is.
No, of course it is. I think you're absolutely right. I'm not challenging the veracity of what you're saying, but I just...
No.
Exactly. A pastor from Williamsburg is accused of striking his wife.
God told him to?
Why he did it? Because she got an upgrade to first class.
Oh.
He did not.
This is a word from the Lord, and he's not happy.
These
God
are
forbid
federal
your
charges.
wife should have something nice, you know?
Yeah.
Sorry, the woman is below me. Mm-hmm.
He struck his epileptic wife in the head on a flight to Alaska. It gets worse and worse. I mean, it's bad enough, dude, that you hit your spouse. She's an epileptic. Roger Holmberg Sr., he's 75. He told authorities that he was upset that his wife had been upgraded to first class.
He sounds like a real prince.
The incident led to the victim, who's been married for about a year and a half after the death of his last wife.
Someone needs to look into that.
It led to this incident. Again, it was an Alaska Airlines flight from Seattle to Anchorage. The couple were en route to an event related to Holmberg's ministry. And two witnesses spoke to law enforcement about the incident, and one said that Holmberg swung on her, yelling, "How the hell did you get the upgrade? I'm a Gold Point member." Oh. Then apparently she told authorities that he had a history of abusing her and even broke her finger in an incident last September. So she kind of began to spill the beans on him. She said that she'd been waiting to report his alleged abuse, but had to do so now because of the plane incident.
Well, this time aboard a plane, there would be people to witness that and see that. So
he said that he broke her finger after she grabbed his leg while he was driving. He also accused her of previously grabbing his genitals with such force that he was in pain. It's a he said, she said. But the last she said was witnessed by other people who also said. So that's why it looks like things aren't so great for the pastor. Terrell Davis, one of the great running backs, Hall of Fame running back Terrell Davis, placed in cuffs on a United Airlines flight.
What happened?
Two-time Super Bowl champion said that he, traveling with his wife and 3 children from Denver to Orange County, asked for a cup of ice during the beverage service. The flight attendant didn't respond to the request, so he said that he calmly reached behind her and lightly tapped the arm. The flight attendant allegedly shouted, "Don't hit me," and left the beverage cart to go to the front of the plane. Davis said that he and other passengers were confused. Quote, "I thought nothing of it other than this particular employee was incredibly rude and blatantly wrong in his accusations of me hitting him. I did not see or interact with him further for the duration of the flight." Then when the flight landed, the pilot asked all passengers to remain seated, and 6 FBI law enforcement agents boarded the plane and placed Terrell Davis in handcuffs.
Wow.
He says, quote, "I was then removed from the flight while being recorded by multiple passengers as I was paraded off of the plane in handcuffs by the officers. I was and remained humiliated, embarrassed, powerless, and angry." No word as to what's going to happen. He was taken by authorities for questioning and alleged afterward, quote, "It was rightfully determined by the agents this flight attendant was inaccurate in the accusations, and the agents profusely apologized, even offering to support me and my family in any way possible."
I wonder how they knew. Was there video of it? Because it seems like a he said, she said thing. I guess other passengers may have seen it as well and could say, he didn't hit the flight attendant.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, he was with his 2 sons and his daughter, and he says that United Airlines has not responded in any way yet.
They said they apologized at the end of that thing.
Oh, they do? Okay. So there was an apology.
Boy, I guess we
and
never...
that the flight attendant involved in the matter has been removed from duty.
Oh,
wow.
Okay. So there was really...
My bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I think it's more of a... I think it's more tubany, than that, right?
It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
Thank you. I think that... So United Airlines did take aggressive action against their crew that was involved in that. A laptop battery fire prompts an evacuation at San Francisco airport. 3 are injured in all of this. Passengers were boarding an American Airlines flight to Miami. The crew reported fire in the cabin. The aircraft was evacuated. SFFD responding. At least 3 people were injured while evacuating the plane. Injuries were minor. SFFD officials said all passengers were transported back to the terminal.
Oh, look at it there. Got the laptop sitting on the tarmac.
Yeah.
Oh, look, there's Dan Ashley.
Dan Ashley.
Yeah.
Big shout out, Dan.
Big shout out.
Yeah. American Airlines issuing a statement saying the cause of the evacuation was from smoke reporting from the laptop. And they essentially go through the details that I just shared with you. And with that, my friends, we conclude Stories from the Sky.
This has been Stories from the Sky. The captain has turned off the seatbelt sign, and you are now free to move about the cabin.
You know, Albert, I know that Belinda is this week, I think she has a doctor's appointment of some kind that has kept her from being part of things. But I wonder if we could still do a little bit of It's the Planet Stupid, because there are a couple of stories that might be worth relating, and I'd love to get to them. So let's do it. On Wednesdays, we like to feature news of the environment, and we do it in a segment we call It's the Planet Stupid.
The planet Earth.
Some call me nature.
I am very passionate about the planet
Earth. A living, breathing planet capable of sustaining whatever life forms we see fit to deposit on it.
Spock, judging by the pollution content of the atmosphere, I believe we have arrived.
It's the planet stupid. No. It's the planet stupid.
As President Donald Trump tried to roll back a lot of federal environmental regulations, as you're aware, but they were often stymied, those efforts were, by the courts. Also, it was his first run. He was trying to do a lot of stuff. You had a lot of inexperienced people who were trying to execute his desires, and that lack of experience, and even employees who were there at the EPA and elsewhere providing resistance got in the way of him rolling back a lot of environmental regulations, although they did roll back a ton. But if he retakes the White House in November, it's thought that he'd be in a far better position to dismantle environmental and climate rules. And now there are sympathetic judges that he has placed throughout the system and conservative allies who have already put in place in Project 2025 and in other express strategies methods by which they can roll back a lot of the different environmental regulations that keep water, air, and soil at various levels of toxicity. And again, I'd like to see the air, water, and soil get even cleaner than it is. I think they're already very lax regulations, especially when it comes to corporate pollution and business pollution. But all of that said, it looks as though it's going to be going the other way. It's going to be easier for Donald Trump to roll back these regulations, said Myron E. Bell, who led the transition at the EPA after Trump won in 2016. They're going to have better people, more committed people, more experienced people. They'll be able to move more quickly and more successfully, he says. He's promised to repeal federal regulations designed to cut greenhouse gas pollution. This is what Trump is already pledging. Many of his allies want to go further. They're drafting plans to slash budgets, oust career staffers, put loyalists in key offices, scale back the government's powers to tackle climate change, regulate industries. Forget about that. Forget about restricting hazardous chemicals. That was already done in the first year of his administration. You may recall there was a question of the Clean Water Act, and there were challenges to the Clean Water Act because certain corporate polluters were being accused of not honoring the particulate matter and the other specifics around the Clean Water Act. And the Trump administration said, no problem. It was his EPA, you'll recall at that time. We'll just raise the amount of toxins allowed in the water. So you'll still be able to conform with the Clean Water Act. It's just that the amount of toxins that are now allowed in, quote, clean water is now going to be higher. So regulating industries, restricting hazardous chemicals, these are things that are all going to go away. And this next go-round really represents an opportunity for Trump to transform America in many ways that involve wildly friendly corporate polluters.
Well,
He's proposed...
Didn't they say they want to just get rid of the EPA and some other agencies as well? Like, just that's it. Don't even need it anymore.
Yeah, he's going to reclassify tens of thousands of career civil servants. That's also part of Project 2025, so it'll make it easier to fire them. And he's going to get rid of what they call the deep state. He and Steve Bannon, that's their thing. So that he's not going to have any bureaucratic guardrails. There are not going to be any of these legal ways to hold this administration that's coming in to account if it's a second Trump administration. Because of the Supreme Court in particular, he'll be able to get away with a lot more than anyone ever suspected, said the head of the EPA under George Bush, Christine Todd Whitman. She said the courts have effectively given a second Trump administration a free hand to slash regulations. So that's a drastic transformation in the EPA, which was created by Richard Nixon, as you know. And it's played a powerful role in American society. It's cleaned up a lot of the air. A lot of the air in Los Angeles is starkly different than it was during the 70s when they were saying to kids, don't go outside and play in the afternoon. Many of these changes to reduce smog and all these destructive toxins in the environment, they're going to be rolled back or eliminated completely. So handcuffing the EPA at best is what we're looking at, and significantly weakening, undermining, and maybe totally dismantling the EPA is what we're going to. It may be there in name alone is really what we're looking at. So rolling back all sorts of regulations.
I have a family member who is a scientist that works for the EPA, the federal EPA. And I'm so proud of the work that he's done in trying to make the soil better and the water better. And he said under Trump last time, he was pretty frightened to see all the memos coming through about things that used to be a big deal that were no longer a big deal anymore. And he said the best he could do was just put his head down and try to do the work and try to do the best that he could. But it was very frustrating, and he almost left and didn't.
I have friends at the Justice Department who said the same thing under Trump. In a 32-page section on the EPA in that Project 2025 document, the plan takes aim at the agency's authority to tackle global warming, including by revisiting a 2009 scientific finding that says that carbon dioxide emissions endanger public health. So, I mean, the blueprint also calls for repealing regulations governing air pollution from factories that cross state borders. You know, that was a big court case, very, very high profile. And the Supreme Court is now in the corner of polluters. Go ahead and pollute all you want. And the downstate runoff or pollutants that waft into the air, you're not responsible for those. Legally, anyway. And they want to reconsider limits on PFAS, those toxic compounds, the forever chemicals that are nearly half the nation's tap water. They want to reconsider limits on those. That's all in the Project 2025 document. They've even talked about eliminating EPA's Office of Environmental Justice, which focuses on reducing pollution in low-income and minority areas. They want to break up an office dedicated to children's health. They want to reset scientific advisory boards to expand opportunities for what they call a diversity of scientific viewpoints. And they want to appoint a political loyalist.
What is that? Go back. A diversity of scientific viewpoints. What does that mean? That facts aren't the ruler of the day?
Exactly.
Exactly. That we get the fake news and the conspiracy theories mixed in with the science, and we get nothing.
Yeah, we reverse engineer it. We've already decided that we don't like the regulations, so we'll get to it by appointing a political loyalist as the agency's science advisor to reform the agency's research. They've talked about this specifically. This isn't me making it up. This is the plan. They install political loyalists, in this case at the EPA, and that becomes the agency's science advisor, and that informs science at the agency.
What do you say to somebody like Chris, who says the EPA was created to drive industry offshore? I mean, it's so ridiculous.
Chris, that's just bullshit, and you know it, pal. I mean, I just at some point, dude, do me a favor and float me something I can work with. You know that's bullshit. Now, if you're saying, I hate it when I have to recharacterize some criticism like this and try to make it palatable. You're saying by creating the EPA, industry was driven offshore where they can pollute. Is that what you're saying? I get it. Fine. Then drive them offshore where they can pollute. That's what I would say. So you're saying I hate the EPA because all the dirty industries had to go overseas and elsewhere. Great. I don't want the dirty industries here. Terrific. Can I help them to the offshore? Let me grab your bags. Get the F out of here with that. I don't want the slurry in the drinking water. I don't want the toxins in the soil. I don't want the tons. I'm talking about millions of tons of toxins going into the air. Forget about global warming, Chris. I'm sure you don't sign on to it. It's complicated. A lot of the scientists disagree. Okay, great. But don't you care about just the toxins? The ones that are getting deep into your lungs and producing cancers? Emphysema? Don't you care about that at all? Or it's whatever business wants, if business wants it. It's just weak, dude. It's weak. I think we want the cleanest air, the cleanest water, and the cleanest soil. We're the richest nation on earth. We ought to have it. And instead, we all stand aside and we let them piss in our pond. It's disgusting. It's the Planet Stupid for today.
More.
It's the Planet Stupid. No. It's the Planet Stupid.
Next time, only on The Mark Thompson Show.
What were you going to say, Kim?
I would rather that industry, companies, be held to a higher standard and want to achieve those standards. So instead of polluting the environment and making things cheaper, do it the right way. I don't necessarily want to push people offshore unless they're dumping and being, bad citizens and making our air and water disgusting. But I would rather them say, oh, okay, you want us to do it this way? This is the way we do it in order to keep everyone safe. This is how we'll do it.
This is how we'll do it. So,
a werewolf can kill a vampire. Did you know that?
No, I'd forgotten that. Sometimes I don't remember that a werewolf can kill a vampire. I'm encouraged. Thank you. Of course, you're right, Kim. But I'm encouraged by what Kim has just drawn my attention to.
Yeah.
This is a new poll. You know how we love our polls. So let's take a look.
There's never been anything like this.
Donald Trump's chances of winning the November 2024 presidential elections are declining, according to a new aggregation of polls. An aggregation, strong ding word. 538's poll tracker, which was originally published on July 8th and updated on July 16th, shows Joe Biden with a 53% chance of winning the election, while Trump has a 46% chance of winning the election.
What?
According to the tracker, Biden is favored to win in 534 out of 1,000 of 538 simulations of how the election can go. Trump wins in 462 out of 1,000. Again, Biden wins in 534 of them, Trump in 462 of them. The polling website said that its forecast is based on a combination of polls and campaign fundamentals, like economic conditions, state partnership, and incumbency. It comes after a presidential voting intention poll of 3,600 swing state voters found that Trump margins over Joe Biden have narrowed since June in two key swing states, Florida and North Carolina. Trump previously defeated Biden in both states. In 2020, he had a 6-point lead over Biden in Florida. And he now only leads the current president by 4 points in Florida. The poll shows that 45% of participants plan to vote for Trump compared to Biden's 41%. So again, he leads by those 4 points. It's not the only recent poll to give Trump a 4-point lead in Florida. There's a Fox News survey that gave him 50% of the vote compared to 46% for Biden in Florida. But now the poll aggregator Race to the White House has Trump on average 7.2 points ahead of Biden in the state of Florida, with Biden at 41.9% and Trump at 49.1%. The 538 poll shows Biden has a 50% chance of winning the state compared to Biden's. No, that's wrong. They want to say Trump has a 50% chance of winning in the state compared to Biden's 45. They just misprinted it. The key is that it's tight. It's very tight. It's down to the swing states, guys. It's Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. It's that simple. Joe Biden has to win those three states, straight up, okay? And Pennsylvania is the one that really, well, I mean, they all actually are in play. But he has to win those 3. We're going to talk more about this. Glad we got some talk in that wasn't pure presidential politics. But look, it's a political year. So you're going to hear in this ramp up to the election, you're going to hear more in the way of this sort of thing. That's what we're here for, you know. I'm not going to do stories from the sky for 2 hours just to pretend that we don't have a presidential election going on. So I hope you understand it in that context. Try to represent all sides and, you know, but I'm also not going to paper over what are some of the issues that we have in our side, if you will, in an effort to defeat what I think is a real clear and present danger, to use the phrase. And I just gave you reasons excerpted from the 2025 project in the case of the environment. It's a real issue. So, but that's the latest. It's a little bit of help and a little bit of hope for the Democrats. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
Albert, what do I need to do before we say goodbye? I feel as though I have Luis. Mark, don't get trolled. You're better than that. Oh, that's because I was responding to Chris. Yeah.
Big shout out.
Maybe that was a troll. I don't know. He's talking about moving. He's a regular troll. I guess I give him a little play. Aloha, love the show, Walter. Big shout out and aloha to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate a 5 spot here on the way out. Project 2025 is a nightmare big time. It's so true. It really is. Does Chris get a yellow card? Oh, this is interesting. Does Chris A. Hultgren get a red or yellow card today?
We haven't used Mr. Predicto at all today.
I was just about to think about Mr. Predicto. I'm so glad you said it, Albert, because I think it is a question that we should ask Mr. Predicto. So, Mr. Predicto, let me ask the question, Mr. Predicto. Mr. Predicto, will Chris, who is a troll but is a regular troll, he's here every day, we kind of love him. He's maybe a lovable troll, if that's possible.
Sure.
Is he going to get a yellow card for his remarks today?
That is a likely outcome.
Oh! Wow. Wait.
The answer is unclear. Try again.
Okay. Wait a minute. Mr. Predicto is really padding his part.
Now is not the right time to tell you.
Oh, okay. I don't know what should happen here. I normally don't yellow card people for just stuff like...
an opinion, yeah.
Yeah. You should see me on other streams. I'm going to let it go. You know, I issue the yellow cards reluctantly. You know that. But
baby girl.
I don't want to.
Don't even play.
Yeah. I don't see it happening. So
you do not issue them reluctantly. I've been yellow carded twice.
Oh, you've been yellow carded because you deserved it. You're lucky you weren't red carded once. Yeah, you S-ed all over the host. I can't believe you weren't red carded for sure.
And I didn't even apologize.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. Don't push it. Don't even play, as AOC.
Oh, girl, baby girl. Don't even play.
You know. All right, so the after party live's going on now. I think that's her effort to make things right. That's the way I look at Kim's after.
We'll do it live.
Yeah.
I'll write it and we'll do it live.
She likes to right the wrongs of this show. I thought she actually had a very good show. Both of you had very good shows, I thought. And I want to thank John Rothmann for being here. Tomorrow, the great former federal prosecutor David Katz stops through, and we might have another guest as well from the Midas Touch Network. So all of that working.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Keep the faith, everybody.
Out of time. Bye-bye.
Until tomorrow. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.